Hello, I'm Dana. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. I am back for another reading of my new book, 7 Years to Surrender, My Journey to Faith. We're going into the third week since I launched it on November 1st. I had the idea a couple weeks ago to actually put my voice to my words in the book, and so that's why I've decided to come on and read it chapter by chapter. I've read several chapters already, and I'll put the link to those below. I am still receiving amazing feedback. I'm trying to decide how I want to do it, if I want to pop on and read a comment each time that I do a reading, or read all of the comments later. It's just that the feedback that I have received has been so profound, so amazing. It's like I'm just blown away. I feel like I need to share. I'm just glad that I was obedient to the voice of God, and that I actually wrote the book, and that I actually put it out. So, yeah. Like, for this to be my first book, and to not even have the dream of being an author, and to actually put out a book that is getting this kind of feedback, it's amazing. I think eventually I am going to have to do a live. I've never done a live, but I think where I am now, I am at some point going to have to do a live, and I'm still working through that. Not that I'm afraid, it's just that I'm still working through those logistics. So yeah. So without further ado, let's just jump in and read the book. So I am on, what chapter am I on? I believe I'm on chapter 4. Oh yes. Chapter 4, the beginning of dating. Let's jump into that. Where are my glasses? Chapter 4, the beginning of dating. My first unchaperoned date was when I was around 15. It wasn't with Tim. It didn't go anywhere. No spark, no drama, no loss. Sometime after that, I started talking to another boy I met at one of our church events. We didn't date exactly. We just wrote letters. We lived an hour away, and since neither of us drove, our relationship never really got off the ground. That fizzled after maybe a month. I didn't like him like that. Again, no loss. I started dating Tim when I was 16. He was a couple of years younger than me. Our families had known each other since we were kids. I probably started liking him around age 10 or 11. His family would visit our church every now and then when his father came to preach, and we'd run into each other at various church events. We lived about 45 minutes apart, so when we did see each other, it was usually because my sister would drive me to his house, or his brother would bring him to ours. When we couldn't see each other, we stayed connected through letters and long phone calls, back when house phones still ruled the world. No texting, no DMs, just good old-fashioned landlines. There were 2 types of calls, local and long distance. Ours were the expensive kind. I racked up the bill so much that I eventually had to get my own phone line. My sister eventually got married and moved to a place about 15 minutes from Tim. I started spending weekends with her and her husband, which made it even easier to visit Tim. Eventually he got a car and could drive to see me himself. Even then, there weren't many things we could do together. His parents were very strict, and mine were mildly strict. No movies, no skating, no amusement parks, basically no fun. Our dates usually consisted of sitting on the couch at his house or mine, just talking. But we didn't mind. We enjoyed each other's company. We wrote letters, we had long conversations, we laughed. We became great friends, not just friend zone friends. We were very attracted to each other. As the relationship grew, so did our conversations about life, the future, and eventually intimacy. Baking cookies, our code for sex, started coming up more and more. We both knew it was off limits until marriage. That was the rule. That was the belief. I had always intended to save myself. Tim was less convinced. Marriage was something we talked about, but it still felt far off. A few years down the line at least. And holding out until then, it felt like a stretch, especially for Tim. We dated about 2 years. Now and then we'd venture beyond the couch to the mall, the airport, his cousin's house or church. But as time went on, the baking cookies conversation kept coming up. He was wearing me down. Tim had female friends at school. He was a very attractive guy, and I already didn't have much time with him. Now he wanted even more. I didn't know what to do. We started talking about marriage, not because we were ready, but because it was the only path to intimacy we believed was right. I didn't want to lose him, but I also didn't want to betray my values. I felt stuck between my desire to keep him and my desire to keep myself. What would it mean if we did it? What would it cost if we didn't? Who could I even talk to about this? Sex before marriage was strictly frowned upon in our faith, and it wasn't something you just casually brought up to a parent, not even to a family member. So I carried it all alone. By my senior year of high school, 1991 to 1992, the tension between us was rising. Tim still had a couple more years of school left, and I still wasn't ready for marriage. Honestly, I didn't even know how to be ready. Eventually, he broke up with me. Chasing what he believed might be greener pastures, we remained friends, but the visits stopped. A couple of weeks later, we got back together, but it didn't stick. He tried to back off the baking cookies conversation, but he was young and thirsty and the pressure returned. So we broke up again. When he came back the next time, I told him to kick rocks. I knew he wasn't fully committed. I somehow had enough self-respect not to let him play me. He said, "I'll be back for you." 24 years later, divorced, with 3 kids, he was. After high school, I felt like a full-blown adult. I had a fresh sense of freedom and started college that fall. I was quickly getting over Tim. Knowing he still liked me felt satisfying. I now needed to focus on school and the rest of my life. I also kept a crush or two in my mind. Daydreaming was my jam. During that time, I was crushing on my dentist, an old teacher, and some boys on TV. This part of my life, the stretch between girlhood and womanhood, was full of pressure, confusion, questions, and compromise, but it shaped me. It shifted me into a girl who was willing to make it happen, to risk, and to dream. With great risk comes great reward. Thomas Jefferson. I think that low-key became my mission in life. I was making my own money and choices. I hadn't conceptualized what consequences came with those choices. So that's the end of chapter 4. So the first guy the first date that I went on, he was kind of a shy type. He went to our school. I was attracted to him. And he actually worked at one of our family restaurants. And we went to the movies. I don't know if he had a car or not, but I remember the movies was maybe a 20 to 30 minute walk from our house. So he came over to my house, and I don't even know how the conversation of dating came up with my parents. Well, my mother really was the only one that I would have talked to about dating. And she was fine with it, even though I was 15 at the time. I don't remember how dating came up. We actually just walked to the theater. We went to go see a movie. I have no idea what the movie was. He didn't say much. And so with both of us not saying much, there was really no chemistry. I think at that time I had all of these ideas in my head that I had fantasized for years. I'm sure most of the guys were older. Somebody that I probably saw on TV. Like I said, the dentist, or guys that I saw on TV. So there was this idea in my head that I fantasized about having someone. Tim just interrupted me. I don't know where I was. But anyways, I tended to like have these crushes here and there. And that's kind of like how I lived my life, just in my head, like with all of these fantasies about being in love. Really, I loved watching movies, romance movies, and I just put myself in the movies and I just lived out the movie in my head. So like I said, when I started dating Tim, you know, we dated and I was still quiet and shy even then. Tim always made me laugh for, I don't even know what we were talking about back then, but he's a comedian. Not literally, but he is hilarious. And so we dated for a couple years. And like I said, we were still young. Even when we broke up, I do remember being hurt, but I don't even know if I told anyone. I mean, people found out. I know I was close to a couple of my cousins and I had a friend as well, but I don't remember being so upset because I was, like I said, I was still young and it was like my first, I guess, real relationship. I might have cried. I don't know. But while we were dating, it was like I think back on those moments that we did spend together and it was amazing. We had some really amazing times together. So that was my first taste of actually dating. And we were saying the love word. And I do remember being in love with him then. But I was still so young. So when he started pressuring me with baking cookies, in my head, I just knew it was wrong. And we didn't even have the means to actually go somewhere and do anything anyway. I was probably more scared than anything of what might happen, but I still had in my head that I didn't want to do that. So after we broke up and I graduated high school, it was a sense of freedom. And for whatever reason, I just wanted to just venture out and live life. Like, it wasn't even something that I thought about much. It's just that I just had a way of just doing things. So yeah, that was my first experience of really dating someone and to actually be with someone that I was attracted to, and that I was in love with. It was fun. It was a fun experience. I think part of me did wish that he could do more things since I could, but I think that was probably the biggest part that broke us up, is that we couldn't do anything. And then I was still so quiet, and I don't know how talkative I was then, but I think I hadn't quite developed all of my character back then. And so even though he was attracted to me and he liked me and I laughed at all of his jokes, it was still, I hadn't developed character and knowing who I was. So that was probably a big factor of him becoming interested in other females. So that's chapter 4. What was your first experience with dating? Was the person the love of your life? Did you reconnect with them? Let me know in the comments. But for now, that's where I'll leave you, and I'll be back for another reading. So thanks for watching. I'll talk to you soon.